Hello coaches, welcome to another MSC Breakdown. We get quite a few messages from coaches about how to progress and move on towards the professional game, how to get that job. So I managed to get some insight from Football Careers, who we've partnered with for the last 6 months. They've given us discounts on resumes, CVs, presentations. But I wanted to get them on and talk about branding online. What should a coach be doing a little bit extra? What can set them apart? How should they be working to connect and add value to different platforms online? So this one is with Piero Carino at Football Careers. Please check out the interview and also check out Football Careers with a special offer below. Here we go. Piero, thanks for joining me again. Great to catch up on the Modern Soccer Coach podcast.
Thanks very much for having me.
We're now in a world where the coach's brand is something. We just talked before we start recording about Frank Lampard's brand, and obviously at a lower level, coaches that are ambitious at getting into the professional game and establishing themselves and building a network and a reputation. How important is brand awareness, and when should they start thinking about that?
Yeah, I think every coach really at all levels, management. I think they should all have their own kind of personal brand. Obviously, previously we spoke about what a good resume looks like, how to kind of market yourself in terms of your resume. I think your kind of online presence is equally as important as how your resume looks, because it's all marketing. It's you've got your resume there for when you apply for a position, but then how people look at you in an online format is really important. It's important that you're very consistent in terms of your kind of brand and how you put yourself out there. We always say that the likes of your LinkedIn profile, for example, which is an unbelievable way of networking in the game, that's essentially like your online CV. It's important that you really sort of populate your page, that you're sharing good content, that you're networking with the right, you're connecting with the right individuals that are relevant to your network, and that profile is as strong as it can be. Because again, it's like your online kind of resume. So you want to make sure that how you put yourself across on LinkedIn, but also various other channels as well, the likes of Twitter, how you put yourself across. As I say, it's got to be consistent. If you're sharing the right sort of content, if you're engaging in the right content, you're liking, you're sharing, you're retweeting, but also your own content. I'll always kind of notice on a Sunday, you see quite a lot of the kind of hashtag Sunday share, and it's a lot of coaches that will put on their kind of session. Sometimes it's a session plan, it might be a video of a session, but it's just a really good way of, because football and soccer it's like your own kind of community. Although it's global, it's like your own sort of community. So it's a really good way of sort of getting your content out there. But actually, what you're doing by doing that is you're getting your name out there to a global audience. Because the more people that engage with your content in terms of likes and shares and comments, it then kind of monopolizes. And it's exactly the same with the likes of LinkedIn. LinkedIn, as I spoke about, it's like your online resume. You want to make sure it's a strong profile. You're connecting with the right individuals. And if you put up, I'm speaking about kind of content that you put out there in terms of, session plans, videos of sessions, whatever it may be. If you then put that out there and people are liking, sharing, they're commenting on it, what happens on LinkedIn is that people that are in their network then see that, and then they're liking it, and then people in their network then see it. So it just kind of monopolizes. So it allows you to really sort of get your content out there to, sometimes it can be thousands. And by doing that, what you're doing is then people are seeing your name, they're then clicking on your profile, and that's where it goes back to the importance of having a really strong page and everything being populated. Because ultimately you're getting your name out there and people are landing on your profile.
Let's talk about that strong page then, because this was something that I found really interesting. We started working alongside Football Careers. I assumed that it was, as it is in the CVs and the presentations and all, it was outstanding. And then I remember you telling me, and we're also placing an emphasis on helping coaches working through their LinkedIn pages. And I thought, wow, this this is interesting. The more I thought of it, the more I thought, that makes sense, because a lot of coaches are really cautious about, well, should I post, should I not post? And you said there about making your page as strong as possible. Where's the starting point of that, or what are some areas of emphasis that you say you come in and you're like, right, let's be deliberate in this area?
Well, yeah, it probably goes back to another importance in terms of LinkedIn. Like, you'll find that a lot of so us as a football recruitment agency, when we're recruiting for various positions, we will use LinkedIn to headhunt candidates. So when we manage a process, we'll always manage the incoming applications. We'll look in amongst our own kind of resume database, but then we'll go on LinkedIn. So we use what we call as a kind of LinkedIn recruiter. And what you can do with that is you can put in sort of keywords. And when you put in keywords, so it might be, say for example, it's USSF A license Miami, as an example. That then comes up with, it will come up with a kind of list of individuals that meet that sort of criteria. So the importance of having your page populated, you want to make sure that all those sort of keywords are in your profile. Because not only us, I mean, clubs that have their own internal recruitment departments, there'll be other agencies that use it as well. They will use sort of keyword searches to identify talent. So that's why it's important that your page, as well as your resume being strong, your LinkedIn is as strong as it can be. So you've got, maybe a kind of bio, your personal profile really kind of tells a story in terms of your background within the game. It's quite punchy and to the point, but it's a good kind of summary that gets in the sort of keywords. You're making sure that, you're filling out the kind of qualifications, the CPT, the CPD section as well. So that'll kind of bring up the kind of licenses within a search. And then within each of your positions, you're then kind of, rather than just having your sort of position, the date, you're actually going into a bit of detail in terms of your roles and responsibilities, maybe having some of your key achievements in there. What you can also do is you can also implement so it might be that you've got some testimonials. So you might have we spoke about it in terms of the resumes before, but if you've got written endorsements from various people you've worked with in the game, you can then incorporate those testimonials into your page as well. So, when we go back to, getting, connecting with individuals, if you're targeting, say you're working within youth development and you're looking to target academy directors, heads of coaching, for example, you're connecting with them. They're then landing on your page and they're then kind of seeing all your kind of background, what you've done. There's also testimonials from people you've worked with in the game, kind of drawing out your qualities as an individual and as a coach. So it's really, it's a way of really marketing yourself. So yeah, that's why it's important. You want to make sure that profile is as strong as it can possibly be. So yeah, a couple of ideas.
Brilliant. What should coaches not do on their profiles? What are some mistakes that you see people make?
Mistakes are probably where they maybe don't populate their page too well. There's maybe a very brief bio. They maybe sometimes don't have a profile picture, or it's not a relevant profile picture to football or soccer. Like, you want to make sure that your cover photo, for example, it might be a training ground, it might be a stadium, but it's relevant to you and your place of work, I guess, the industry that you're in, which is obviously football or soccer. You've then got your kind of profile picture where you've maybe got a kind of headshot of you in your tracksuit, maybe training pitch in the background. Again, it's relevant. Your headline needs to tell the audience who you are, your background. So it might be USSF A license coach or academy director or whatever it may be, along with your kind of location as well. So mistakes would probably be where they maybe don't have that, where there's maybe not a suitable profile picture, not necessarily one in a bar, but it might just be a kind of normal profile picture, not one relevant to the soccer industry, where they've maybe got a blank kind of background, or they've got a minimal kind of summary background. There's maybe what they've done is they've highlighted their roles. They've kind of filled out the detail in terms of their position and the date and the club logo. If the club has a a kind of LinkedIn page, the kind of club logo will be there. So that always makes it look, a bit tidier as well. But if they then don't go into detail in terms of what they actually did in that position, their roles, responsibilities, their key achievements, that it means that they're then not selling themselves. And that's ultimately what you're doing. If you kind of go back to kind of personal brand, how you market yourself, your resume, you want to make sure it's as strong as it can be, equally the same as your kind of LinkedIn. So that is what you're doing, because it's a very competitive market out there. So you need to make sure that when people are landing on your page, that it gets across you, your background, your qualifications, what you've done, what you've achieved. So yeah, mistakes would probably be where they maybe haven't populated their page, and it doesn't really tell too much to an individual that maybe lands on your page.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Like you mentioned there about it's a really competitive industry, and you do some work alongside clubs that are. You mentioned there some clubs have their own departments, and some clubs will use football careers in terms of can you find us a coach? So you're trying to almost put yourself, not sell yourself, but optimize people's chances of finding you with.
That's it.
Yeah,
absolutely. No, it's exactly it. It's making sure that all the keywords are within your profile. As I say, you're populating it as much as you can without going over the top. It's it's punchy, it's to the point. It's got all the key information in there. It's got all the keywords in there, so that when a recruiter, an agency are then searching for individuals, that your profile then becomes prominent when doing a search.
What about the other way then? Publicizing the fact that you're now out of work. How would you advise coaches to go around that there?
I think we're in an industry where that can happen due to various circumstances, as you're well aware. We're an industry where sometimes you maybe lose a position that's maybe not down to you, but just circumstances led to you leaving your position. So LinkedIn can be very good. You can actually change the little dial where your profile picture is, saying open to work, or it might be USSF A license coach seeking new opportunities, that type of thing. And again, that can be a very good way of alerting clubs, contacts, people in your network that you're available. If you put something on your wall, kind of saying that you've moved on from such and such, you're now currently seeking new opportunities and whatever it may be, that then goes out to your network. But then, as I spoke about before, it can really have a monopoly effect, because if people in your network are liking or commenting on it or sharing it to their network, their then network sees it. So it just kind of it monopolizes. So it is a very good idea to do it, but making sure that you change that dial to open to work and you put in that you're currently seeking new opportunities. You're alerting people that you're available for opportunities, essentially.
Yeah, I've actually got back on LinkedIn. I didn't use it for a few years. Got back about 10 months ago, 12 months ago. I find it as a platform. I would post, I would post a lot of modern soccer coach on the upcoming stuff, but I would post a couple of ideas. It's a good community for coaches and analysts. What about that posting aspect? Like, how often would you post, or would you recommend people do that when you're working with them on their pages? Help them with that?
Yeah, definitely. It's one of the things we always speak about when we deliver on the licenses, is that always put up, as well as making sure that you maybe target individuals to go and connect with to strengthen your own network, is also make sure you put engaging content. And it can really vary. It might be you've seen an article, it might have been you've been on a course and you've picked something up that you then want to kind of share. It might be a session plan. You might have a session video. If you're an analyst, again, it might be analyst clips that you want to kind of put out there as well. And it's actually a fantastic way of showcasing your work. Then there's so many. We've got our own kind of private football group. There's 48,000 members in there. It's, again, I spoke about it earlier, it's like your own community. But there's loads of different groups. I'm also in one which is like professional soccer coaching. And sometimes if there's a role that we're recruiting for, I'll maybe pop it in that channel. So it's, there's specific groups that you can go and find as well and join, and you're then getting like-minded people that want to see what you're sharing. They're maybe sharing things as well that you would want to see. So it's great for sort of content sharing, and as I say, it's also a silent way of selling yourself, because by doing that, people are then seeing your content, they're landing on your profile, and that then goes back to the fact you want to make sure that profile is nice and strong.
Do you think now that we're at a time that needs to be part of not a curriculum, but definitely part of a course? So when you're educating courses, this online, this branding, this how to market yourself, all that good stuff, does this now need to be taught to people?
Yeah, I think it's so important. I'm obviously going to be biased in that sense, but it's as I say, it's such a competitive market. Whether you're going for a job as a first team manager, whether you're going for a role, as head of coaching, you're going for a first team analyst job, whatever role it may be that you go for. I mean, we are managing just now applications for a role with the Boston Bolts.
Mm-hmm.
MLS Next, so they're seeking a kind of new coach to work within their academy, and it's literally there's hundreds of applicants. So it's so competitive for every job that you go for, and it's so important. It makes such a difference. If when you're putting yourself forward, if you've got your CV is well presented, it's got all the key information, your cover letter really tailors why you're the right candidate for the position. You're putting yourself in the best possible position for an interview. But then quite often employers will then look at your social media accounts. You want to make sure that, as I spoke about earlier, it's consistent in terms of how you put yourself across. So educating coaches on that, it's so beneficial.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Like the one thing I've picked up from this interview has been, how deliberate you can be, and how you can move that into it's keywords, or if it's just being that, and rather than kind of the branding that I'm sure a lot of coaches think of, which is tell everyone how great you are and what cup you've won. And that's the type of, and I think that needs to be taught, because like even working with you, that's something that I didn't even know that was a word that you could optimize how easier you are to find and all that.
Yeah.
Once coaches, all right, so I'm sure there's going to be coaches listening to this and be like, all right, I'm way behind it, but this is why I've not been getting anyone calling me back over the last 2 years for my resume and stuff like that. What's the next steps?
So obviously, individuals can go on the website. There's a kind of product pages, so there's examples of the graphically designed CVs, there's the LinkedIn, there's the coaching philosophy brochures. Obviously, your listeners are also entitled to 20% off using the code MSC20. So we can kind of go through that process of purchasing a product through the system. From there, it would then be an individual consultation with myself or one of the team, and then we would then get the ball rolling essentially in terms of putting together the professional marketing products. Also, if they wanted to email info@footballcareers.com, even with their resume, a little blurb about themselves, we can set up a call and can kind of go over their kind of documents, how they're marketing themselves just now, and happy to help with all that.
Fantastic. Pero, great to chat. We'll do it again.
Thanks again, Gary.